All right, here we go. A little bit more about what's going on out there, the magical world. Break some stuff down for you. By the way, uh, somebody better check on everybody over at MSNBC. I want to make sure they're okay. It's not over yet, but you know, Joy Reid and everybody's probably a little worried about all the stuff. Man, look at my eyes. I'm tired. That's because I've been up since 1:30 in the morning. So let's take a little quick peek here, shall we, at the magical world of what is going on when it comes to the needle, right? So you've got the needle. People are like, what's the needle? The needle, New York Times needle, tells you where things are going in their mind. So as of right now, Trump's on his way to 295, which is 25 over. You only need 270. It is almost from lean to likely. And here's the crazy thing. There's a chance he's going to win the popular vote. Oh, dagnabbit. Now, for a lot of people, they're probably asking the question, like, how could that have happened? Well, there's a lot of things. We were talking earlier. And if you missed any of it, shame on you. But here's the thing. The reality is Joe Biden stayed in way too long. We have me going back July of last year saying he's not going to be it. He's not going to be it. He can't be it. And it reminds me of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Right? You stayed in too long. You stayed in too long. And now you paid the price for it. And it is an ugly situation. If you're a Democrat, you're asking yourself, how could this happen? He is all the things that is wrong with America. Yeah, in some ways, but he's also a snapshot of America. We're at each other's, throats on a daily basis. We say things to people you would think we should never say to one another. There are a lot of things that he's a snapshot of, besides the fact that we're reality television. And all that aside, there's a very good chance at this point in time that by the time the sun comes up tomorrow, it's not going to be one of those things where we're looking for, well, what's the last puzzle piece? It doesn't matter at that point in time. The last puzzle piece is going to be done. And that is just crossing, the T's, dotting the I's. And that's, if you right now are a Democrat, you're asking yourself a lot of different questions. How could this happen? But what about democracy? And as I told you guys earlier, democracy is not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about democracy. 4 years from now, Trump is not going to be the president elect again. And he is not going to be the king. He's not going to be any of those things. Because I have news for you. For all of you out there who are Democrats worried about that, there are Republicans that would never let that happen. You seem to think that magically that, like, oh, we're just going to allow that to happen. Wrong. No way in hell is that going to happen. So, I mean, so many things, I think, at least up until this point, stuff could change. But when you go and you look at the numbers, and I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now. They've got Georgia, North Carolina, already called it. Georgia. I mean, this is an uncomfortable situation in Michigan. And one of the things is, and I think this is where Democrats, I'm going to get a little comfortable here because it is late at night for me, considering I've been up since God knows when, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. I'm going to tell you guys this. There are a lot of women out there, and we saw that in Florida, that other women seem to think that they were just going to hand their vote over to the Democrats because of choice. That wasn't going to happen. Both sides realized about 2 weeks ago, I'm never going to reach the undecideds. I am not going to probably get many more people that hate Trump or can't stand the way that the country's going to jump sides. So I need to focus solely on expanding the tent that I already have with the people I know will show up and get their asses to the party. And that has happened so far for Donald Trump. And it is a interesting night when you consider the breakdowns that we're starting to get when it comes to black voters, when it also comes to women. And I've seen a lot of my friends in this business who are on the left who are saying to themselves, what in God's name has just happened? How could this have happened? Really? But what about, because it is ridiculous to think that women only care about choice. You're 23, it's a big deal. It is. You're 37 with 2 kids, you feel pretty responsible, and you got to feed those kids, and you are going and thinking to yourself, I couldn't afford to feed another one, but I sure in the hell can't afford to feed these 2, and life seems to be getting more and more expensive. Yeah. And to lump women into that, I think they did a disservice. They did an absolute disservice. And it hasn't worked out, I think, well for them. Now, could we see something here? Yes, I think something could change. That's a possibility. But is it going to change that month? That I don't know. Because when I go and look at these numbers and I look at the needle, I look at this stuff, it is the fact that Trump is leading in the popular vote also says a lot. And, it goes back to the thing we talked about a couple hours ago, which was Joe Biden and the autopsy of this campaign is going to be interesting on how he played this. Because the stories that I've been told from people is once Joe took the knife out and looked up and saw all of the people that did the business, that maybe, just maybe, they wanted to have a little bit more of an open kind of primary. And Joe beat him to the punch and said, you got Kamala. So what do you think of apples that are those apples? I've endorsed her. So now you guys go against it. Is it a possibility? Of course it's a possibility. But he stayed too long. Man, he stayed too damn long. And let's just think about the fact that Trump rose from the freaking ashes. He's a phoenix. And he rose from the ashes, which is also just freaking mind-boggling when you think about it. But it also shows you that we as a nation are still pocketbook voters. And because of that, as we go and look at this right now, it's almost likely when it comes to the vote. And that is, again, the moratorium on this, on how did you fail? How did you have this opportunity to take a chance to make history, to be the first Blasian, because you're black and Asian, right? Like, I guess that's the best way to call it. A woman, and you couldn't seal the deal. Well, you couldn't seal the deal because nobody knew who you were. And that, it is just, I'm fascinated by that. But when they break this out, when they go and they do, and they're going to do it, they're going to do that. We're going to have to do an autopsy. What's the autopsy say? Well, it's not a good thing. No, it wasn't a good thing because you didn't do what you had to do, which was define yourself. And I couldn't tell you what she stands for. I couldn't tell you any of that. Is she uber progressive? Is she a run-of-the-mill Democrat? Is she any of those things? Or is she just a puppet who enjoys being around power and was willing to say and do anything she needed to do to put herself in that position? And then not understanding how bad the look it was. And that also goes to the fact that you were surrounding yourself with people who weren't being honest with, like, hey, you're not very good at this. Let's focus. I mean, they're going to ask you 8 questions over the next 10 days. Here's the stat answers that you should give to people, and you couldn't even do that. That's an epic fail. It is. And I am fascinated again. So Wisconsin, as of now, probable win for Trump. It's a dead heat. And they're having issues there from what I understand. And those issues are something to do with 30,000 absentee ballots. So we'll see what that looks like. But it's definitely, a situation where she's hoping and praying and, Hail Mary, think it is the Washington football team or whatever they're called this week. I don't know. Now on the Senate side, because here's the thing. Trump wins, but he doesn't have the Senate or the House. He's in for a few years of hell, if not more. So right now, they are 2 away. And if Trump wins, they essentially, that's all they need because they have J.D. Vance to break the tie. So they're in a position right now where they're going to have a smile on their face. And it will get a little bit closer because California is going to come in, and that's like a quadrillion electoral college. But the path right now is so narrow, and it's getting smaller by the second. And not saying it's over, because anything can happen. It's politics. Although somebody just, I like what somebody just said. I'm waiting for the 300,000 Fulton County 3 a.m. dumps. Mo, I don't think that's going to happen, brother. I got to be honest with you. I just don't think I don't think we're getting that this time. In fact, I believe we're going to get most everything potentially tonight from Georgia. Although there was some bomb threats. That's not a good thing. That may push it back. So we'll see. I mean, and for those of you who are waiting for something like, oh, I saw this, or I'm waiting for some sort of crazy thing to happen where it's going to be a, here they go coming to steal it. That isn't overthinking the room. All right. And even today, Trump tweeted, truth something out about how there was cheating going on, and people that are there, even people, the Republicans going, here? Like it here? It's happening here? It wasn't, so stop seeing ghost. Stop seeing ghost. So I think by the end of the evening, when everybody goes, all right, we've had enough, let them figure it out and wake up in the morning and see where everything stands. But it would be hard press, I would think, for her to have a path at this moment in time. Not saying it's not possible, but it is it's unlikely. I think it's the best way to describe it. It's an unlikely situation for her. And what do you do? I mean, if you're the Democrats, I mean, the reality of you thought you had everything. The polls were saying you had everything, right? You had Alan Lichtman and his 13 keys. I heard he and his son are watching the whole thing break down on YouTube. They're filming it. And so if you don't know who Alan Lichtman is, he's one of the great guys. He's got his 13 keys, and his 13 keys are never wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes through all the stuff. And people are like, has he found the keys yet? Because everybody's got to be looking for those damn keys right now. Because he's called it. He's never wrong. And right now, those keys are not unlocking anything that anybody wants. So, House Republicans, it's about a 50-50 chance. They're giving it a 51% chance that they hold the House. And it's an 80% chance that they get the Senate, which I think is probably going to happen. So Is it a mandate though? See, that's just it. And how does Trump now? You've got a chance to get in there. What do you do if you're him? Because I would like to see, everybody's like, oh, do you want to? I know I don't want a softer side of Trump. I want Trump to be authentic, but you can be a little bit more couth about it. Maybe it's a good word. Maybe just a little bit more about it. So, first things first, what's he going to do? I do believe the war, and I know everybody says that Trump is he and Putin are best friends, or Putin's is his puppet master. It's not true. Putin is hoping and praying Trump wins because Putin needs a way out. He needs a way out. Abso-freaking-lutely needs a way out. And you heard several generals and people today in Ukraine saying, oh, we hope Trump wins too, because we have a feeling he's going to be the only one that's going to be able to help us get out of this mess. Because I think there's a lot of people inside of Ukraine who are part of the higher ups who recognize, look, this is old fashioned war, land for war, kind of, this is they're going to get land. That's it. And at the end of the day, they're probably going to have the same amount of land that they would have had a year and a half ago. But that never happened. So Trump coming in saying, we're not going to give you any more. And looking at, the likes of Putin saying, dude, here's the deal. We're not going to let them join NATO. We are not going to help them out anymore with weapons, but we are going to stand there and watch what you do. So your choice is get the hell out of here, or you will answer to us. And I think the left doesn't want to hear the fact that that could actually happen, which is crazy, right? It was like the same time when Trump was, before COVID, when people are saying, was it Bill Maher that said, well, I hope he, I hope there's a recession because we can get him out of there, which was the dumbest thing to say. I mean, you're making $20 million a year. You can say those kind of things. But the average person is like, I don't want a recession because no. So, yeah, I think the Democrats would freak out if he actually went in there day one. They put an end to this thing. And I agree with him in some ways that I don't think he would have invaded. He invaded on Obama's watch, Crimea, didn't invade with Trump, and he invaded, went straight in there when Biden took over. And I think there's really something to that. Now, he says, October 7th would have never happened. I call bullshit on that, but whatever. I think it would have happened because I think Iran couldn't have and wasn't going to allow the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Israel become more normalized and business-like. It just wasn't going to, they weren't going to allow that to happen. So, we can debate that all day, but all day, that's coming to an end for potentially the Democrats when it comes to this time. Now, they've got to figure out how to regroup. How do you regroup from here if you're them? What do you do? Because the democracy, the Nazis, the demonizing half the country, the gaslighting half the country, the shit talking that you'd get on, many of these news networks. And yeah, you know what? Fox does it. Newsmax does it. But the reality of all of this is you're the establishment media. You were supposed to be always above this. You were always supposed to be something else. And you got to the point where, as I'd like to say, is you felt morally you were superior in your hatred of somebody. And because you did it with a smile, that it was okay to have a disdain for them. And also to tell half the country that they were garbage, or that they're fascist, or that they're and I get it. I could go through my text messages. I can go through all of my things. The stuff I'm called on a daily basis is insane. And then, you wonder, well, why don't you want to be friends? Because, you You try to insult somebody and then expect them to be your pal. That isn't going to work. To even have a conversation. If I walked up to you and you voted for Kamala and I said, I called you a name and told you you're a POS, and then let's have a discussion. No, that's not going to work, and vice versa. So if you're them, you're going to have to rewrite the playbook on how you take on these people. And the other thing is Trump's going to be gone. So the Republicans, they'll celebrate, but then you're going to have to go, okay, what are we going to do? Because we're going to have to build somebody to take over for him eventually. But that's if he wins. And I keep saying if, because the reality is it's not over yet. It's not over till the fat lady sings. It's always about the fat lady. I feel bad for the fat lady. Because if you're singing and you're kind of big, you're like, are they talking about me? So we will find out. Tomorrow, I'm going to have all of this stuff. We're going to cover it all from top to bottom. I've got several shows tomorrow. We're going to do several other lives as well. But reach out to me across all my social media. I love it. We get the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, obviously, Instagram, TikTok now, because I'm like, eventually I got to give in. The Chinese are already stealing my stuff anyways. And let's talk about it. What are your fears? What are your worries? What do you think is going to happen? And I know some of you are waiting for some other thing to happen where you think they're going to steal it. I just don't think that's going to happen. Sorry, I didn't think it happened last time, and I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think Biden won, couldn't prove anything, but much like I've said for years, that doesn't matter. That's all in the past. All that matters is today and tomorrow. So follow along across all of our social media. You guys have a good night, and we'll be back doing it again tomorrow. And I have a feeling it's not over yet. I still think there's some twists in the tails here and there, but it's